The Honorable Minister of State for Government Communication, directors and heads of departments and agencies, friends from the media, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It is an honor and a privilege to present the performance of the works, housing, and water resources sector. I consider this occasion as both significant and timely. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I extend warm greetings to all stakeholders as well as viewers joining us virtually through social media platforms. Your participation underscores our shared commitment to inclusive governance and effective communication. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the ministry's core mandate is rooted in the vision of building a resilient, modern society that enhances the economic and social well-being of all Ghanaians. Our work aligns with the government's resetting agenda, focusing on equity, sustainability, and transformation. Over the past months of resetting, we have made notable strides across our three core areas: works, housing, and water resources. Our progress speaks to our enduring commitment to transforming lives, strengthening communities, and advancing the foundational work for Ghana's sustainable development. The works subsector. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the functions of the works subsector focuses on 1, the protection of the country's coastlines; 2, provision of urban drainage system to mitigate flood disasters; 3, maintenance of government properties; and 4, delivery of quality architectural and engineering services. Coastal protection works. Ghana's coastal belt continues to face significant threats due to the rising sea levels, resulting in flooding, shoreline erosion, and community displacement. In response, my ministry has prioritized strategic coastal protection to safeguard lives, livelihoods, and infrastructure. Notable achievements include the successful completion of coastal protection works at Komenda, Ningo Pram, and Elmina. At Komenda, the project included the construction of a critical bridge and a modern fish market, which have also been completed. These interventions have improved local connectivity and enhanced livelihoods, particularly in the fishing communities of British and Dutch Komenda. At Ningo Pram, extensive dredging of the Jale Lagoon Basin was also successfully executed, providing improved protection for residential dwellings and restoring public access to the beachfront. Similarly, the third phase of the new Takoradi Sea Defense Project at Elmina has also been completed. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, these three projects have altogether protected an approximately 15 kilometers of coastline and offered protection to lives, livelihood, and properties. Additionally, there are other coastal protection projects at various stages of completion. 1, Dansoman Sea Defense, 95% completed. Dansoman Emergency Sea Defense Phase 2, 15% completed. Discove Coastal Protection Project, 36% completed. 4, Anomabu Coastal Protection Project, 81% completed. 5, Cape Coast Coastal Protection Project Phase 1, 80% completed. Cape Coast Coastal Protection Project Phase 2, 23% completed. Aboase Coastal Protection Project, 75% completed. Axim Coastal Protection Project, additional works, 12% completed. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, you will recall In March 2025, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama visited Sulakope, Agaveji, and Amutinu in the Ketu South municipality, where tidal waves had displaced thousands of residents. During that visit, a firm commitment was made by His Excellency, the President, to address that devastation. True to that promise, I am pleased to announce that a contract was awarded for the Phase 2 of the Blekusu Coastal Protection Project. And in August last year, His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Ghana, officially broke ground for the commencement of this critical project. Currently, the project is 25% completed, and calm has already been restored along the coastline. Additionally, the Lower Volta Basin Sea Defense Corridor has been incorporated into Waka Resilience Investment Project Phase 2, with technical assessments and environmental impact studies currently ongoing. Feasibility studies have also commenced for future coastal projects at Shama Apo, Ningo Pram Pram, that is the Phase 2, and Ada West. Drainage and flood control works. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, flooding remains one of the most pressing infrastructural challenges in the country. Addressing flooding has remained one of the topmost priorities of this government since assuming office. A presidential task force on flooding, led by the Deputy Chief of Staff, has been established to coordinate national flood mitigation efforts. This high-level team, as part of its efforts, have carried out comprehensive assessments on major drainage infrastructure within key hydrological basins. These assessments have assisted in prioritizing critical flood-prone areas for interventions, as well as guided the design and execution of long-term flood mitigation strategies. Under the National Flood Control Program, spanning 2020, 2023, and 2024, my ministry has been implementing critical interventions to reduce flood-related risks. Notably, progress has been made in the construction, rehabilitation, and desilting of drains across various regions. These works have contributed significantly to improving the capacity of drainage systems, thereby reducing flood risk in identified hotspots. These interventions have resulted in the construction of an approximately 1.76 kilometers of storm drains as at December 2025. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, as part of the Greater Accra Resilient and Integrated Development Project, that's known as GARID, performance-based dredging of the Odo Channel has continued from the line sections at Caprice and Circle. A post-dredging survey indicates that a total of 90,936 cubic meters of sediment have been dredged and transported to the designated handling sites. Similarly, upgrading interventions, including the construction of storm drains, local drains, major culverts, road paving, as well as other road works in Alogboshi, Akwetema, and Nima are 58%, 62%, and 65% completed, respectively. Other drainage improvement works have also commenced at Achimota, Nima, Paloma, and Kanishi. As part of the non-structural measures, various equipment have been acquired and installed across key water bodies in Accra to support the flood early warning response systems for Accra. The development of the flood early warning response systems for Accra is advanced, with servers now installed and configured for Ghana Hydrological Authority, the National Disaster Management Organization, and the Ghana Meteorological Authority. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, in response to emerging flood risk in the Greater Kumasi metropolitan area, drawing on lessons from the ongoing GARID project, the government secured grant funding to conduct strategic flood risk assessments across 3 key drainage basins, i.e. Sisa, Wiwi, and Abuabo. The consultants engaged to assess community-specific vulnerabilities in low-income areas such as Abuabo and Asawasi, as well as identify flood-prone zones within the broader Kumasi urban area, have submitted draft reports to the ministry, recommending a range of flood mitigation measures. Short-term proposals include dredging and drainage cleansing, enforcing building regulations, adapting flood-sensitive land use planning, and establishing a Kumasi flood early warning system. For the medium to long term, the reports suggest removing key bottlenecks in major drains, implementing a room for the river approach to restore floodplains with prospects for resettlement, while establishing a coordinated, sustainable waste management system for the metropolis. The ministry is seeking the needed resources to begin the process that will bring relief to the people of Kumasi. The government therefore remains resolute in its commitment to sustainably address flooding and its related challenges through continued investment, enhanced institutional collaboration, and community engagement. Operational hydrology. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, to modern hydrological monitoring systems, the ministry installed 3 telemetry units along the Black and White Volta River systems to enhance flood forecasting and real-time hydrological monitoring. These are at Laura on the Black Volta, Yarugu and Nawuni along the White Volta River in northern Ghana. These installations significantly strengthen our capacity for data-driven early warning systems and disaster preparedness. Furthermore, an automatic discharge keeper has been installed at Aveno, Weja in the Odo River and Densu River catchment areas, significantly improving flow measurement and generating actionable hydrological data to support urban flood management in Accra. Additionally, real-time flow monitoring equipment has been installed at Sugakope in the Lower Volta Basin, Ashalaja in the Densu River Basin, and Pokwase in the Odo catchment, all aimed at monitoring stream flows and collecting the necessary hydrological data and information for flood risk management and mitigation. In a complementary effort, the Ghana Hydrological Authority, in partnership with the Volta River Authority, has also rehabilitated several malfunctioning gauging stations within the Volta River Basin. The renovated stations include Pran, Sineso, Yendi, Pasa, Dodo Tamale, Ahamasu, and Vapo. The housing subsector. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, Ghana continues to grapple with housing deficit currently estimated at over 1.8 million units. This gap is further exacerbated by widespread affordability challenges which prevent a large portion of the population, particularly low and middle income earners, from accessing safe, secure, and dignified housing. Rapid urbanization has intensified the situation with more than half of the country's population now residing in urban areas, and projections indicating that this could rise to over 72% by 2050. The demand for housing in metropolitan areas such as Accra, Kumasi, Takoradi has therefore grown exponentially. Unfortunately, the supply of housing has not kept pace with this demand, resulting in overcrowding, soaring property prices, and the expansion of informal settlements. This scenario underscores the urgent need for coordinated, forward-looking interventions that simultaneously address housing supply and affordability, whilst promoting sustainable urban planning to match Ghana's evolving demographic realities. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, my ministry has continued its efforts to complete the stalled affordable housing projects across the country. TDC Ghana Limited has continued works on 800 housing units under the Bong Affordable Housing Project at Tema Community 26. These units are at various stages of completion and progressing steadily. To position TDC Ghana Limited as a key player in Ghana's housing industry, the President of the Republic of Ghana, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, performed the sword-cutting ceremony last year for the construction of the Oxygen City housing projects at Ho in the Volta region. This landmark initiative seeks to address Ghana's housing deficit through the development of 1,000 affordable housing units. This project is the first by TDC Ghana Limited outside the Tema acquisition area. The Oxygen City housing project, which will be housed on approximately 1,000 acres of land, is envisioned as a well-planned, serviced, and economically integrated community, featuring essential amenities such as a school, hospital, shopping mall, gym, and a recreational center. The expected completion date is June 2027. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, my ministry has intensified engagement with the selected developer for the completion of the Saglemi affordable housing project. Following the completion of the developer selection process led by Deloitte Ghana, the head of terms have been duly signed by both parties. The joint venture arrangement concluded among all parties as well as the shareholders' agreement drafted and mutually agreed upon. The document is currently with the Attorney General for review and finalization. Similarly, the State Housing Company Limited continued works on key projects, including the Surge Homes development at Amrahia. The SHC Gardens project, both projects are currently at 68% and 70% completed, respectively. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, National Home Ownership Fund continues to make significant progress in expanding access to affordable housing for Ghanaians. Through its construction financing support, the fund has completed the construction of 129 housing units at Tema Community 22, awaiting commissioning. Similarly, an additional 50 units at Shire Hills is expected to be completed by the end of the second quarter. Government Redevelopment Program. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the Government Redevelopment Program is a strategic initiative aimed at revitalizing prime public lands and infrastructure to better serve the evolving needs of public servants and the urban environment. The program seeks to transform underutilized state-owned properties into modern residential and administrative developments, in line with effective land use planning and sustainable development objectives. Under the program, the ministry is executing various redevelopment projects, delivering a total of 625 housing units, which is currently at different stages of completion. To date, 195 housing units have been completed at Roman Ridge, Laboni, and Latebi Okoshi, and are allocated to public servants. The program marks a major step in advancing the government's commitment to expanding housing options for public servants, enhancing living standards, and making more efficient use of limited urban land. Since assuming office, the ministry has worked closely with the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources to strengthen oversight, safeguard government's interest, and ensure that public assets are neither undervalued nor compromised. Akosombo Dam Spilage, resettlement of displaced communities. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, following the devastating impact of the Akosombo Dam spillage, my ministry, in collaboration with the 19 affected district assemblies, went through an extensive process to validate a total of 2,225 housing to be reconstructed for the flood victims across 4 regions. Phase 1 of the resettlement efforts consists of 1,010 housing units within the 3 critical impact zones, namely North Tong, Central Tong, and South Tong districts in the Volta region. Site mobilization and construction activities are currently active in 8 locations across the 3 districts, with 251 housing units ongoing at various levels of completion. Greenville District Housing Program. As part of the decentralization agenda and in line with government's commitment to affordable housing, my ministry has initiated the Greenville District Housing Program, a strategic intervention targeting low to middle income earners at the district level. In its pilot phase, the program has commenced in 8 districts, namely South Dai, Asojaman, Achimansa, Ajumako Enyan Esiem, Achima Kwangoma, Doma West, Bole, and Tamale, and at various levels of completion now. Each district is earmarked to receive 22-bedroom housing units as part of the first phase of the project. A hybrid construction approach using compressed earth bricks and sandcrete blocks is being adopted, prioritizing sustainability, cost efficiency, and resilience. The official launch of the Greenville District Housing Program is expected to be performed in the short term. This milestone marks a significant step towards decentralizing housing delivery and advancing social equity, inclusivity, and improved living standards across the country. National Rental Assistance Scheme. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the National Rental Assistance Scheme, established by the government in 2023 as a social housing program, aims to facilitate access to rental properties for qualifying beneficiaries by providing rent advance. The scheme is currently being piloted in 6 regions, namely Greater Accra, Bono East, Northern, Eastern, Western, and Ashanti regions. In 2025, the scheme successfully facilitated the payment of rent advance for 2,031 Ghanaians across its 6 operational regions, bringing the cumulative number of beneficiaries since inception to 4,732. I am glad to state that so far, the disbursement recovery rate is about 99%, indicating the government seed money is fully recoverable and in circulation. The program's eligibility criteria, application process, and beneficiary success stories highlight its effectiveness in addressing housing needs and enhancing community well-being, and government is poised to take the necessary steps in the short to medium term to scale up the operations of the scheme across all 16 regions of the country. Review of rent laws. Rich ladies and gentlemen, recognizing the critical role of rental housing in national development, my ministry continued the review of the Rent Act 1963, Act 220, and the Rent Control Law 1986, PNDC Law 138. These reforms aim to modernize outdated legislation, eliminate regulatory bottlenecks, and incentivize private sector investment into rental housing. Key priorities include maintaining tenant protections, especially for low-income and vulnerable groups, while also regulating hostel accommodations fees across the country. Towards the end of the year 2025, the National Rent Dialogue was organized to validate and streamline the proposed amendment. The ministry taking the necessary steps to resubmit the revised bill to Cabinet and subsequently Parliament for consideration and approval. The water subsector, water resources management. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, Ghana's annual renewable water resources are estimated at approximately 54 billion cubic meters, with over 70% of this volume sourced from the Volta Basin, shared among 6 riparian nations, including Ghana. However, per capita renewable water availability has been on a steady decline from approximately 3,000 cubic meters per person per year in the 1960s to about 1,650 cubic meters as at today. This figure falls below the United Nations threshold of 1,700 cubic meters, indicating parts of the country are already experiencing water stress situation. Despite the abundance of natural water resources, Ghana continues to face significant and multifaceted challenges that hinder sustainable water resource management. These include 1. Climate variability, such as erratic rainfall, drought, and flood, have become more intense and frequent. Illegal mining, commonly referred to as galamsey, continues to pollute our rivers and threatens our ecosystems. Deforestation and poor land management practices continue to degrade our watersheds. Over 60% of Ghana's river catchments have been subjected to unsustainable land use practices. Inadequate enforcement of regulations, overlapping institutional mandates, limited resources, and lack of real-time data do hamper coordinated interventions and further compound our challenges. Uncontrolled urban sprawl, which has led to the encroachment of wetlands, riverbanks, and recharge zones. Borehole drilling, largely unregulated, is depleting aquifers, while industrial expansion often disregards effluent control measures. To address the challenges outlined above, the Water Resources Commission, with the support of government and other development partners, raised 34,000 seedlings as part of the Buffer Zone Restoration Program. Continued with the implementation of nature-based solutions, as well as the establishment of watershed investment programs for some river basins. The Commission has also adopted the bottom-up approach of water resources management by establishing local water governance systems, where riverian communities are directly engaged to support the management of our water resources. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, in support of efforts to combat illegal mining, especially within water bodies, the Commission has developed the Water Resources Assessment System, which is currently in its operational testing phase, alongside user acceptance testing and training sessions. The system will be linked with the mining cadastre administration system of the Minerals Commission to enhance government's vision of streamlining the permitting and licensing process for small-scale mining while reducing the turnaround time. Additionally, 2 legislative instruments for the management of riparian buffer zones and the control of waste discharge and management of water quality within the country are being drafted with the support of the Attorney General's Office for onward submission to Parliament for consideration. These LIs, when adopted, will minimize encroachment and pollution of water bodies in the country. Water supply. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, according to the Ghana Statistical Service and the WHO and UNICEF Joint Monitoring Program, approximately 88% of Ghana's population has access to basic water services. However, only 44% of the population benefits from safely managed water services, defined as improved water source, that is on premises, available when needed, and free from contamination. Urban water access is relatively high at 96%, whereas rural areas report an average of 74%, with certain regions experiencing access rates as low as 42%. It is important to note that these figures include communities where service is often intermittent and unreliable. One of the critical challenges facing urban water supply is non-revenue water, which stands at an estimated 50%, far above the international benchmark of 25%. Meanwhile, nearly 4 million Ghanaians continue to depend on unimproved, limited, or surface water sources. Other persistent issues impacting water supply include aging infrastructure, low investment in maintenance, poor cost recovery, high operational cost, pollution of water sources, and climate-induced variabilities. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, to address these challenges, my ministry continued the implementation of key interventions aimed at expanding and improving water services nationwide. The following urban water supply projects are at various stages of completion. 1. Keta Water Supply Project is 72% completed. Wenchi Water Supply Project is 91% completed. Sekondi Takoradi Water Supply Project, 89% completed. Government will soon commence work on the Damango and Sunyani water supply expansion projects, as well as explore the opportunity to conclude all financing arrangements for other water supply projects at Tamale, Yendi, Techiman, and Takwa. Additionally, the Danish government has also earmarked some grant support to expand water supply services to low-income and high-density areas in Wa and Bolgatanga to address water supply challenges to the vulnerable in these areas. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the rural water supply projects are also at various stages of completion. 1. Asenkregwa, 72% completed. Sefirioso, 57% completed. Duadaso, 50% completed. Kweman Damfa, 75% completed. Goso, 59% completed. Jabin, 65% completed. Aveime, 81% completed. Edubanso, 70% completed. Water sector reform. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, my ministry continues to pursue water sector reforms in line with the broader objectives of the revised National Water Policy. Studies are currently ongoing to define clear and sustainable pathways aimed at strengthening institutional coordination, improving service delivery, and enhancing financial sustainability. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, in conclusion, in the face of resource constraints, the Ministry of Works, Housing and Water Resources remains resolute in its commitment to deliver transformative policies, programs and projects that positively impact the lives of Ghanaians as we confront the complex challenges of infrastructure, development, and environmental sustainability. We urge all stakeholders, both state and non-state actors, to adhere strictly to planning regulations, promote responsible development practices, and demonstrate improved civic responsibility. Let us reaffirm our shared commitment to building a resilient, inclusive, and forward-looking Ghana. On behalf of the ministry, I extend my deep appreciation to all partners and stakeholders for your continued support. We remain dedicated to creating infrastructure that meets today's needs while laying a solid foundation for future generations. May God bless us all. Thank you.
Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, and click on the bell for more updates.